What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pit Crew Podcast. Get this, episode number 14. So today we got a special guest on board. It's going to be Landon Milz, the designer of the Drive Smart paint scheme that Kyle Weatherman is running every single week. This guy won the iRacing Daytona Challenge that we did 1 year ago. He had the best paint scheme for it. Not only that, he also went on to design many other paint schemes in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Today, I'm going to be joined by Robert Hill. What's going on, Robert? And how you feeling about episode number 14?
Man, it's good to be back. We've been off a couple weeks. We went down to Pocono. You hit up Indianapolis as well. And now we're back here. We got Landon with us tonight. It's going to be one heck of a show. Chris isn't here, though. He's in Puerto Rico vacationing or something. I don't know who approved that, but hopefully he'll be back next week and should be a good one.
Mr. Chris. But with that being said, let's go ahead and bring on Landon Milz.
Let's do it.
Welcome, Landon Milz on to the show.
How we doing, guys?
Doing great. So we got a lot of questions for you because we're going to go into your background of racing. We're going to figure out how you got to this point at 18 years old. How did you go from designing iRacing paint schemes to being at the NASCAR tracks as a real life designer? So we're going to start with the basic questions. Where are you from and how did you get into NASCAR?
I'm from Chicagoland area. Been here my whole life. I've always had a knack for motorsports. I wouldn't say I was always hard pressed into it, but when I was young, especially, we would watch the Daytona 500, and I was a big Jimmy Johnson fan growing up. Like probably from ages 6 to 13 years old, just would watch every race. Obviously, that was a great time in his career, but absolutely loved the sport. I'm from an area in northern Chicagoland area where it's a lot of city, a lot of there's just not much racing around. There's stuff if you can find it, but I didn't grow up in a racing family. Would have loved to race, and so like I said, never really got that opportunity to do any of that stuff in real life. But was a big fan, loved NASCAR, and was just kind of around it as a fan for a long, long time.
So we both had our big break about nearly a year ago when Drive Smart did the iRacing Drive Smart to Daytona Challenge. Now, for those of you at home, idea of the competition, or not the Drive Smart to Daytona Challenge. Actually, we designed the paint scheme before the Drive Smart to Daytona Challenge. We'll get on to that later. But when we designed the paint scheme for Kyle Weatherman's car, we got 40 entries for it. And basically, all these iRacing painters came on board, designed all these paint schemes, and we had a competition with me, Rogator, Real Wadman, and Kyle Weatherman. And we all picked one paint scheme each and had the fans vote on it. So the guy who won that was Landon Milz. He had the best paint scheme, and that is the paint scheme you see on Kyle Weatherman's race car today. Now, Landon, when you won that competition, can you walk us a little bit about designing the car, and did you feel like you was going to win that, and just walk us through the whole deal?
It was something that was so random, and I would say honestly, this was September, I think, last year. It hasn't even been a full calendar year. It's probably at 10 months, 9 months. So to think that all this has gone on just from a big perspective is crazy. But you know, saw the competition, did some research on what this whole thing was, and it was pretty cool. I think any NASCAR fan would probably be interested in doing something like that, having a car on track in real life. And so obviously entered, free to enter. I'd test my luck at it. I was an iRacer for a long time. I did recreational design work, took graphic design classes in high school, but I was never really meant to be an artist, never had any of that in my just in my lifestyle. That wasn't what I was. I didn't think that was what I wanted to be. So this was something very foreign to me, and I said, hey, I'm just going to take a crack at it. Obviously, I had experience doing some stuff just lightly on the side, paint scheme wise, in the iRacing community, but entered the contest. And you don't really have any other way to differentiate yourself from making something that you think looks really cool. So felt like I was able to. I spent a lot of time on that, and just yeah, a lot of time on that. And then entered it in the competition. And I was lucky enough that I felt like there was a little bit of publicity beforehand when I posted it on social media that a lot of people were reposting it. I think Kyle even like reposted it or commented on it, so he knew. I think I might have even gotten like a message beforehand. He was like he really liked it, so I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I mean, there's a bunch of other entries, and so I mean, I at the point I was doing my best work and would put that out there. But once the competition started, I would have said, you know, what happens happens. I felt like obviously I think there was four top five, top four that was selected by the influencers. Um, and so there was a point where I was watching, and I think three or four were selected. And I can't remember exactly how it went, but I was pretty much on the outside looking in as far as getting a nomination. On that broadcast, I remember you guys talking a lot about it. Kind of just waiting. I'm like, is someone gonna take it? Is someone gonna pick it? Just really didn't happen. And I think you know, UDLV might have asked him a question, you know, kind of almost like you guys forgot about the car I designed. Just wanted to kind of reassess with the four other cars. Um, and then Kyle, I think, ended up changing his mind and said, "Hey, like I'm gonna pick Landon's design." Like I think he picked five. I mean, between all of you, you picked five, and you felt like that was on a separate tier. So kind of made an exception for me, I felt like. Um, and with Kyle kind of already going, you know, earlier in that process, I didn't think that I would have any sort of chance that it would get picked. You know, I thought it would, but I was kind of like, oh, we're not going to get picked. Like that's a bummer. And so yeah, I mean, we had an exception, and then obviously Kyle nominated me, had his influencer pick, and so from that point on, it turned into a popular vote, a community vote. We post on social media. Whoever had the most votes in a certain time period won. Um, and just kind of felt like I had a good community that was around me. Bunch of friends, family voted, just fans. Like, I mean, a lot of them felt like that was the best in their hearts too. So just with everybody kind of coming together, I felt like you know, obviously the connections I already had was helpful, but a lot of people did like that car, and so by the end of that, I do think we won in a landslide. I think we had 60% of the votes, and there was four other designs, so won it in a landslide. And then I really didn't know what the next step was, but really, really crazy event. And there's a lot of designers out there that are looking for stuff like that. And I would say those events help people get into something like this. If they love it, if they enjoy doing it, that's a great opportunity. And it was a very good it was a good catapult for me right into an NASCAR industry, and very lightly. It wasn't supposed to be anything more than a one-time thing, but that opportunity was something I really couldn't pass up.
Well, after you won, you got the opportunity to go to Texas Motor Speedway, and that was your first introduction into the NASCAR industry. Can you walk us through that? Because I know at the same time you started doing a little bit of graphic designs for DriveSmart on the side around this time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something for this whole competition, at least on the surface level. It was a one race deal. It was um, you know, it's just kind of everything coming together for one race in the playoffs last year at Texas Motor Speedway. So obviously, me being the winner, I was, you know, flown out to Texas to be with the team, to be around the car, to be around kind of the actual NASCAR industry. Kind of first race of me not being a fan, which was overwhelming because I felt like I was going to just kind of see where that went. So a lot of unknowns. Carried myself kind of how I always wanted to. Obviously, once I went and got to meet the people at DriveSmart, Chris, Dan, first time in person. I mean, we had phone calls beforehand, but great people. Really, really liked them. The company, learned more about that. Just the people aspect around that group was very, very like connected kind of from the get-go, which was something I didn't necessarily expect. And I don't know if they expected it either too. So um, I went into that weekend kind of thinking that was my only chance, my only time there. I didn't know what the next step would be. I was just gonna say, hey, we're gonna soak it all in. We're gonna meet people. A lot of great people introduced me that I already kind of knew, and a lot of connections, a lot of networking at the racetrack really helps. And so I don't know if DriveSmart at that moment knew that they were going to do it moving forward. I certainly knew I wasn't. Um, but time was spent, and we would go out to dinner. I mean, we spent probably 3 days together. They were pretty much like, "We want you," and I'm like, "What do you mean you want me? You have me." I'm like, they were like, "We want you moving forward. This isn't a one-time thing, just so you know that." And so getting that was kind of like, "Oh, wow." And that was something I didn't expect. It was just something that kind of came up as time went on, getting, more comfortable with them, and they liked me. They don't have to do that. They could have said, "Hey, this is your one-time thing, and then we're moving on, but we might do it and then find someone else." But that wasn't the case. They really liked me. I really liked them, and they pretty much brought me in as their guy, NASCAR wise, for everything in the moment and the future. So it's turned into social media graphics, everything that's pretty much put out on social media from Drive Smart is me behind the screen making it. Pretty much all the merchandise that we've done has been me as well. We ended up doing t-shirts. Oh goodness, I still have the Chris moments of him getting excited to hand out free t-shirts on the Drive Smart stream. So it turned into merch, turned into social media stuff, turned into other mock-ups and other stuff that we've got planned right now that nobody necessarily knows about. So just getting kind of included and being part of the group was something I didn't have on my radar, but it's definitely turned into that from that weekend, from that opportunity.
So immediately after Texas, I think you had a help in designing Kenyon Washington's Legends car, and then we move on a bit more to the Drive Smart to Daytona challenge, where you're designing the T-shirts and we're promoting them every week. Well, then Daytona hits. You go to Daytona. That's a whole experience being there that weekend. I mean, both of us, I believe it was both our first time at Daytona then. But not only when we got to Daytona, you was designer of Kyle Weatherman's car, you also designed the number 18 car for Shelton Creed in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. How did that deal all come together from the Drive Smart stuff?
It's funny. Every connection is connected. That seems obvious, but it's not necessarily. I didn't think that was how it worked, but every opportunity was somehow connected through one way and another. So obviously, design Kyle stuff from the beginning. That was pretty much full time into the next year. I knew that after that weekend was done. So I was looking forward to having a car racing regularly for the upcoming 2024 season. This year, I was really excited to have that. But a couple days later, there was somebody who I met at the track who saw that I was doing stuff NASCAR wise, and pretty much ended up being somebody from a marketing agency, and there's a lot of those in NASCAR. So those are a group of sometimes drivers. This one in this case is, which included drivers like Sheldon Creed, Caden Honeycutt is in that field, Jesse Love. Not necessarily all of these guys need artwork done because contracts and stuff, but got an opportunity for this marketing agency looking for a graphic designer, and so with us knowing that Sheldon was moving to JGR in the 18 car, the whole off season was mocking up stuff, proposing stuff to potential sponsors, just kind of throwing a lot of artwork out. And so for me, last summer was a lot. It was very busy. Just so much stuff is used, but there's a lot that's unused, and there's a lot of work going back and forth with sponsors, not drivers, but mostly sponsors and then the agency in this case. So that was something that was supposed to be kind of, from what I knew, maybe a one or a couple race deal with Friends of Jacqueline Foundation and Sheldon. And so obviously knew that was for Daytona. Once again, went into Daytona and thought that was just kind of another one-time thing. And so, I was blessed enough to have one car with Kyle on a track in Daytona, but to have another great car in Joe Gibbs Racing, Sheldon Creed, and then the sponsors and agency, and then the people back behind that was very big and helping me get out even more. There's a lot of people that didn't, not everyone knows who makes paint schemes. For me, I kind of have everyone's name of each car behind the scenes of who made it. So a lot of people were able to find out that I was that guy, and there's probably still a decent amount of people who don't know, but that reach took a huge climb up from that off season after Texas until Daytona. And then as this season's gone on, it's really taken off. So Sheldon it's a full time deal with Friends of Jacqueline Foundation this year. So having a car right now sitting very very well in the point standings, and I think he's had tied the most at least tied the most top fives this year of anybody in Xfinity series. So hasn't gotten the victory lane, but has a really good chance to be there at the end. It kind of reminds me of a Daniel Hemrick situation where he didn't win all year, but was super good points wise, super good car wise, and I think he's got a decent chance to, I don't know, do something maybe at Phoenix. So hopefully that's the case. Hopefully there's a win throughout the season too that comes. But yeah, I mean that wasn't possible without the Drive Smart stuff. One person talks to another person. I mean, it's a whole network, and people don't really realize that. Even just normal fans can kind of start a journey there too if they have access to something that most people don't have. So, yeah, Daytona was something that I was never there. I met you, DLB there. You were kind of like, oh wow, it's World Center of Racing. Never been there before. Kind of figured it out, and it was really fun. A lot of rain, but a lot of fun. Drive Smart crew at the racetrack is always so much fun to be with. And so that was a heck of a week, and it was a long one, but that Daytona look was very different from what I had planned a couple months before as to what I'd be doing in my life at that time.
So immediately after Daytona, I see that you're designing social media posts for Joe Gibbs Racing, but we're gonna skip ahead to Charlotte for when you designed the number 92 car of Natalie Decker. Not only that, you also designed the T-shirts for Natalie Decker that weekend. Can you walk us through a little bit on how that deal came together?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record here saying one thing leads to the next, and it's the network, 'cause it really is. I mean, it really is, and people don't realize that there's so much opportunity in front of them. So, I know we're moving on from Daytona, but this started at Daytona. Natalie was racing, with, DGM Racing in the 36 car, this February, and, made the race, led laps, did very well. Um, and I had the pleasure to just kind of talk with her a little bit, tell her kind of where I was at. Obviously, I mean, I knew Derek, her husband now, for a decent bit of time through iRacing and stuff, but kind of wanted to talk to Natalie and just kind of say hi and just talk and just kind of say that, it's nice to meet you. I've got opportunities that I can provide here, try to get you sponsorship. They're always looking for stuff. Um, and developed a really cool relationship kind of from that point on. And so, yeah, it was, a decent gap from Daytona to Charlotte, but from that point on, we were looking for another race that would suit her. Obviously, get a sponsor on there, and we found that with Bikini Zone, which is an anti-bump shaving gel for females specifically, which is something you don't see in NASCAR. And so the moment I got a call from her and told me that that's what the sponsor was likely going to be, I was like, that's awesome because when you as a designer have something like that from a brand, from a marketing, from just a standard that's not normal, you can be so creative. It stands out like nothing, like nothing else. You see pink, purple on the car. Obviously, Natalie attracts a lot of attention being at the racetrack, and her platform's huge. So everyone seems to know who she is. Getting to work on a deal with her to design T-shirts, make her paint scheme. We did hero cards and all. There's a bunch of other stuff I left out there too. So, but the biggest thing about that is it's not just a business thing. It's not just a one-time deal thing. It's a really good relationship too. And so we're always trying to get them on track for more stuff. Um, Blessed to be able to work with yet another driver, another great driver between everybody I've worked with so far. So blessed to have Kyle, to have Sheldon, and obviously Natalie. So that was a really cool project from start to finish. I think arguably one of the most unique ones. It was the most unique project I've had in my career as a designer by far, but could be possibly up there for the most memorable just because of the sponsor, her, like it's just something you don't see very often. So that meant a lot to get, a connection started with her and had the honor to design her artwork on track. And so, you know, uh, but the other thing people don't realize about designers and people behind the scenes is that we don't demand attention. We don't demand publicity, we'll take it for sure. But um, a lot of people are doing work behind the scenes, but a lot of people don't know about that, and that's how it is. I embrace that. That's how it should be. That's how it always has been. But the thing that was super unique about Natalie is every post she would tag me. A lot of people don't know, but in that Daytona, a couple weeks before, or not Daytona, excuse me, a couple weeks before Charlotte, when she was doing her vlogs, her seat fittings, her car, just kind of around the shop, she would literally shout me out just right on the moment in her vlogs. And I've had times where I get some publicity, which is cool, but with her and her platform and how heavily she promoted me being affiliated with her, like I said, tagged me in every post, would shout me out on her YouTube. Um, I got so much publicity, especially for somebody right now where I'm at a state where I have to market myself. I have no choice but to operate my own business, to operate my own, you know, just my own company pretty much. And so I rely on other people getting me business. Like I have to go out and get that myself. I have to attract people. I have to make myself appealing. I have to make the artwork I'm providing appealing to sponsors or potential sponsors that are paying upwards of $100,000 for a race weekend. So um, having her just promote and using her platform so well for me was something, like I said, I didn't demand, I didn't ask for, but she kind of did that out of her heart, which is really cool. And it actually helped me out so much on the backside that a lot of people don't realize. Um, but that does so much, and I don't take it for granted. But yeah, I mean, I could see my insights on social media grow from maybe 1,000 clicks or something in 30 days. It went up to like 20,000. And so crazy run there. And all that does is help me. Like I said, that's super valuable for me. So just from every aspect, she's a joy to work with. That project was so fun. I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to do something like that again. It was that cool. And especially at this point in my career, having something like that already on my resume is really cool. So that was a heck of a race weekend. That was a heck of a project, and still trying to do more. So
Natalie's definitely always one of the most fun drivers to work with. We had her on the show before. Come the end of this show, we're going to be giving away one of the T-shirts that Landon actually designed for all the active chat members. So if you're interested in that, drop something in the chat, and come the end of the show, we'll be giving away one of Landon's T-shirts that he designed for Kyle Weatherman. Well, I'm going to pass you over to Robert Hill because I know he has some good questions for you.
let's
So,
hear it.
Landon, you mentioned the publicity and whatnot that you've gotten, and that's kind of my side of the industry with media. How have you grasped the extra attention that you've gotten from the paint schemes you've done, the partnerships you've created, and things like that over the time that you've been in the industry for such a short while so far, such as like when they shouted you out on the race broadcast, and of course your interview with WGN in Chicago recently as well?
Yeah, it's really crazy how the publicity on my name at this point, like I said, it's not been a full calendar year, and what has happened to me is honestly remarkable. I still don't necessarily know how everything has turned out, but yeah, from interviews locally to shout outs on national television of a race. I mean, last fall, Dave Burns was talking about me um, during, I think, qualifying at Texas. So like that's stuff right there. Like I said, there's countless other things I can name, but that publicity is it's the most valuable thing for somebody starting out, for somebody um, looking to build up. And I would say the biggest thing throughout all of this is finding a way to use it as like ammo. Not, and I say that in a good way, just to make yourself more valuable. Use stuff that you already have attached to your name. To use social media, use your network that you already have. Just you use everything that's in front of you, and if you can do that, you always will grow. And I've just been fortunate that a bunch of these things have helped boost me, like almost like multipliers in time, and I don't want to say fame, but it really has been fame, and what I've gotten to at this point. It's really crazy, and so those things are by far the most valuable things that I've gotten for me personally. And a lot of people don't realize that is valuable. And I'm not speaking for myself. There's a lot of people who would pay a lot of money for opportunities like that. And that time, that reach, like forget money for a second, like that stuff is valuable. You can't pay for that all the time. But when you get it, especially when you don't demand it, I talked to a lot of people recently. Like the coolest thing about all of it is you don't demand it, but you still get it, and that's a very rewarding feeling. Um, and so, yeah, really cool that all these great opportunities from one extreme to another have just somehow, I shouldn't say somehow, but I still don't necessarily know how everything works, but it somehow has. And yeah, it's helped me a ton.
And I was going to ask if you've really been able to grasp everything that's happened so far. And it really doesn't seem like you have as of yet. You've gotten some insane opportunities and you've earned them as well based off of the work that you've done. But the one question I really do have is prior to the Drive Smart competition, where you were able to get your paint scheme selected and out there, what were your goals for your design career and how much have they changed since that opportunity?
Uh, to answer your question, there was no goals. I didn't think this was a possibility at all. So I had no goals. Went into all of this with zero goals. I didn't think art was any sort of art, any sort of artwork. Like, good God, I would have not even thought of that. So that's honestly how it was. Um, yeah, I think the fact that there's so much movement in such a short period of time, it's great. I think that it helps not just me, but a lot of people happen. Um, there's sometimes where I'm at a racetrack and I'm just kind of thinking about the next thing that I have to do. Um, and then there's times where you might not have something. Think of it for this, like there was one weekend this year where, just with everything matched together, trying to remember what race weekend it was, but first race weekend of the entire year. There's only been one race weekend of the 2024 season where I haven't had a paint scheme on track. Um, and that was kind of a weird feeling. It was kind of what you mentioned. Like I didn't really let it sink in. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, and I don't want to say I took it for granted, but it felt weird because I was always under the mentality like it has been an explosion of opportunity. So I've always been either working on the next project because it's in my lap. I have to do it. Um, but I've not really been able to. I mean, I've enjoyed it. It's always, I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to do all that stuff. But I wish I was able to focus a little bit more on the in the moment feeling because that's something you can't replicate. That's something you necessarily can't get back. Um, and so just with how fast everything's moved, um, that one example of not having a car on track one weekend kind of makes you realize how blessed you are to be where you're at. And just kind of the fact that it's really important to savor and enjoy those cool moments. Like, I mean, having one, even two cars on track for a race is crazy. Um, and I just look over it sometimes because that's just how fast the industry moves. But it's in the back of my head. It's so cool, especially for somebody who's watched NASCAR and has loved it for a long time. I don't forget it, but I feel like do need to attract or put a little bit more attention into the in the moment feeling of how cool it is too, and not get caught up looking to the future.
It's sometimes really hard to grasp the in the moment aspect of it. I totally agree with that. I think Dustin would as well. We're all so lucky to be able to do what we do in this industry because so many people don't get the opportunity to be here and we get that chance. So it's definitely a really blessed feeling being able to do that for sure. But looking ahead down the road, obviously you're still incredibly young, still I heard you haven't even started college yet, which is coming
No.
up in the fall. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'll be at Iowa State University as a freshman. So that's the crazy thing too. Everyone says just how young you are. You're in such a great spot, and I'm like, I appreciate that. Which is, not I understand not everyone has this much momentum at such a young age at such a pretty. I mean, it's a huge industry, and so yeah, I mean, every part of life. A lot of people don't realize. I keep saying it's not been a calendar year, but every moment since that contest has been not overthinking, not overdoing, almost just letting stuff fall into your lap because you don't have time to think and weigh the options. It just moves on. So, uh, And I have that same mentality right now too. It's just whatever the next step is, you take that step and then you see where you're at and reevaluate. And so yeah, a lot of people say, well, what are you doing? Why are you going to college? Like you've got such a great piece of work. You've got such a great platform that you've built up already in NASCAR. But I don't really take anything for granted. So I look at it's a normal life. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm gonna go to college. If something comes up, there's something that comes up, but under the impression that I want to fulfill that. This is kind of I feel like that's something I should hold myself to do. Um, but yeah, it's crazy. Sometimes I don't think of that, and what's even crazier is the fact that this 90% of what I've done has been in the midst of a high school. Well, my senior year of high school was what most of this was done during, and it's a school year. I mean, we're talking business calls in the middle of school day. Um, Tough. Found a way to do it, but I mean, there's times where you're not sleeping at night. There's times where you're overloaded with work, and it's just there's so much there. The beauty of all of this, where I'm at right now, as a student still, is the fact that I have what I have software wise, computer wise. I mean, everything I do is on a computer, a laptop, just one laptop. I can bring it wherever. I was talking to Dustin. Indianapolis, our race day graphic. I was doing that in the hotel room, um, right before I mean, it was past midnight, but like it doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm doing. I can still do this. And so everyone say, "Oh, like have a great time at college." Like, no, like I mean, yes, but I'm still doing what I'm doing, and I'm actually gonna have more time most likely to do it in college than I did in high school. There's a lot more to manage in high school. And obviously, like I said, I weigh opportunities, I weigh where I'm at and reevaluate. But right now, college is that next step. Obviously, career wise, this is what I'm doing. I'll keep doing it. That doesn't change for everyone being like, "Oh, we'll miss you." I'm like, I'll still be around. I'll still be at the racetrack.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
still
still
be.
here.
I'm still here, baby. So, no, I haven't left. I don't plan on leaving. We'll obviously be partaking in that next chapter of my life, but certainly doesn't change anything else NASCAR wise that I'm doing. And it's funny. The cool thing too is being a kid, being a student. A lot of people really don't know what I'm doing, and when they see what I'm doing, I try to be pretty humble about it. I don't talk about it a ton. Obviously blessed to have these great opportunities, but when people actually kind of figure out what I'm doing, they think it's the coolest thing ever. So, um, it's yeah, it attracts a lot of attention. Um, but for me, there's a lot I got to weigh. There's a lot on my shoulders, but I figure out a way to manage it. Um, and no, I'm certainly still around. I'll certainly be at the racetrack, and I'm certainly still doing everything I'm still doing right now, and have been doing. So hopefully that continues to grow. But yeah, for me right now, it's college in a couple weeks. We'll start that up, but it doesn't change anything NASCAR wise for me.
It's pretty wild that you're going to be managing the business side while you're also doing the schooling. But like you said, it's what you need to do. It's the path that you're going down, and it's going to help you grow as well. And my thought recently with graphic design is obviously AI is coming into play. What are your thoughts as a graphic designer about AI, and are you going to grasp onto that and kind of work alongside it, or are you still trying to make sure that you're better than it at all times?
I think there's a human element in AI. As a graphic design standpoint, that will never be able to be replaced. There's a lot, and it's a great tool. I'm a big believer that it's very helpful in some regards. But where it's at right now, it doesn't change much. I think it's more of a tool than it does hurt anything in a graphic design standpoint. I think it's got a lot more harm and power to take over in other categories with just how realistic that is. But from an art perspective and the details that you have, I don't think it'll ever come close, especially in sports, especially in NASCAR. I'm not worried about it. Not to say that'll change, but I don't really look at it as any sort of threat. I don't really see it taking any opportunities away. Um, I see it more so helping. But there's some stuff out there that you're kind of like, that's not great, but it doesn't change much from my perspective. So, um, it needs some work, especially in the design industry. Maybe we'll reevaluate in a year or two and be like, okay, maybe my opinions change. But talking to people in NASCAR, they're not worried. I'm not worried. But I would say, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities it can take over in other creative industries, but I wouldn't say it is.
Good. That's definitely good to hear that there's still going to be the human touch to it, and
Yeah.
it's always nice to see the creativity that all the designers have in the industry. And obviously, we talk to a lot of drivers on the show, and every year they're talking about how one season starts, they're looking ahead to the next. They're reaching out to the teams, the sponsors, trying to put stuff together and make sure they have deals for the future. What is that like from a graphics side of things for you? Are you reaching
Yeah.
out to those teams all the time, building the portfolios, the mock-ups, things like that, trying to get yourself opportunities a year ahead as well?
Um, no, not really of me reaching out. There's a point where when you start out, and a lot of people right here who aren't who don't have the in NASCAR have to do that. But for me, obviously, I'm still doing all of that. I'm just not proactively doing it. I'm not most likely, right now, I'm not pitching to people. I'm not going out and reaching out for these opportunities. But there's a lot that is put on my plate that says, "Hey, we've got this sponsor, we need to attract it." I work with drivers who are always looking for sponsorship, but once I start working with them, then we'll come up with something to present to them. So me proactively, I'm not pitching to drivers looking for opportunities, but there's a lot of potential sponsorship that plays a role behind the scenes in NASCAR that, like I said, it sucks because there's a lot of unused design work out there, but I'm always, working with agencies, drivers, sponsors, potential sponsors. That's the big thing too. Finding a way to attract. And a lot of people will say, "Hey, I'm just going to make whatever looks the coolest." And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that too. But the biggest thing a lot of people don't understand is it's all business. There's so much money in NASCAR, and that's a lot. That's pretty much what runs it is the money side. So you got to find a way to when you are pitching, which, like I said, I'm still doing quite a bit. Um, you got to make it appealing from a business side. Why are they going to put that kind of money into a race team, into a driver for a race or more? And so seeing what you can do to appeal to them is huge. And if it's done well, it's hard to lay out like for me, it's hard to lay out a mock-up that I wouldn't be interested in doing as a company. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. But if you look at it more of a business standpoint, I think that holds you a lot more. That holds you a higher chances of landing more opportunities. They'll make more money. There'll be a car with your artwork on track. And there's usually more opportunities that come of that too. Nobody wants to see mock-up designs get thrown in the trash or get lost. There's so many out there, but and that's a part of it. But if I had the choice, why wouldn't you make an opportunity stick? Why wouldn't you make a deal land? It helps the driver. It saves everyone time. And so that's a big role I'm doing. I'm just not necessarily pitching to drivers I want to work with, teams I want to work with. Where I'm at right now with my workload with doing social media graphics for Joe Gibbs Racing, working with Sheldon's marketing agency, Raceface, and their drivers, and then obviously doing the stuff here with Drive Smart and Kyle and DGM Racing. I'm not necessarily in a position where I feel like I'm desperate that I need to do that, and so I don't think that'll change. I don't think I'll ever really have to do that, and that's something that I'm so lucky to say because a lot of people have to go out and do that, get their one opportunity. They got to make it up. But Drive Smart was the opportunity that was placed into my lap, so I didn't have to do that. I didn't waste time, effort, energy, money. Like I didn't have to waste all that time just to get up to that start. And so I was kind of picked up and lifted into the start of the chapter by Drive Smart. So uh, they played a huge role, and like I said, everything is traced back to how it started for me. I don't forget where I came from, and I really look kind of like a web from a network and connection standpoint of how everything leads together. And there's so much I can look back at and say, hey, this led to this. I met this person that led to this. Can directly say that. Not sure everyone can, but I think if you think like that, it makes you understand how you're going to continue to grow and land more opportunities and have more artwork on track, which is always cool to see.
I love the mindset of always remembering where you came from, always remaining humble, and looking ahead to the future as well, trying to stay proud of your work and keep those same kind of ethics that you had at the start all the way through. It's a good way of looking at it. And I got one more question before I toss you back to Dustin here. He looks like he's patiently waiting up in that corner. In many industries, there's people that you look up to for inspiration, and you lean off of, maybe get advice off of them. Is there somebody in the industry, maybe not even the NASCAR industry, just graphic design in general, that you've had the chance to lean on and you continue to go back to for some advice on growing as a designer and in this career as well?
Yeah, there's obviously people up above. There's people who honestly are no longer with us. Sam Bass was a huge icon in NASCAR as a designer, started everything. So he was somebody that everyone looks up to. But for me, it's mostly NASCAR because that's where everything started from. I'll throw a couple names out there because these people, and there's so many people that I'm going to have to leave off this list too because I just can't say
Of
everybody. But
course.
there's, I tell you, it's crazy the relationships that I made. It's crazy the people that I've met who are pulling for me all the time. But a couple people out there, graphic designers. I mean, Kyle Sykes at Trackhouse Racing, unbelievable artist, unbelievable person. He's somebody who kind of had a similar footprint into starting this off. He won a hero car contest, so similar start. But he is somebody who is he's at the top of the game when it comes to NASCAR. Those cars with Trackhouse Racing are so great. Works with a great team. Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain are great people to have. Driving your artwork. So he's great. He actually lives about an hour from my house, and he's literally the only employed. He's employed by racing. He's employed by Trackhouse, but he's not on site. And so he was at a time where he was able to get an opportunity to do everything he's doing it, but it's not on site, which is crazy because everyone who has creative directors as a race team, like people in house as designers, he doesn't have to do that, and it's cool. He's just 15 minutes down the road for me. I've met him. He's somebody who helps me out all the time. If I reach out, he'll be there. He'll give me some advice. He'll talk to me, and a lot of these people, I'm talking about other stuff that's not even racing wise. So he's great every single time I see him at the track. Awesome, awesome person. Michael Carey. Not sure if you know the name.
Oh
He's
yeah.
great. One person that a lot of people, and I'm going to throw this person out there because it's not even a graphic designer, but Dylan Coyle as PR with College Racing was somebody who was really cool, just kind of a mentor. Still in that creative field, but somebody just to kind of talk to and help. Probably one of the first people that I knew, one of the first people I met at Texas when I first started, and so I don't forget those people. They're always great to see at the racetrack. That's a couple. There's a lot of others, but a lot of people I look up to. But the coolest thing is a lot of designers are very supportive of other people. There's so many people that I talk to. There's so many people I give advice to now that I wouldn't have thought that I wouldn't have thought that I'd be giving advice to people. There's people who are actually a little bit higher than what I'm at and a little bit more developed, but'll reach out to me, questions, looking for stuff, just in general. And so that community behind the scenes as artists are, some people might think it's competitive, it's aggressive, and there's always a little bit of that. But when I really saw what it actually is, when I see these other people at the racetrack, when I see these other people on social media, it's literally all support. It's literally all great comments. There's no toxicity, there's no hate, and it's crazy because I thought that there would be, seeing all these people, with this opportunity, that opportunity, fighting for that. So designers are really cool people. But everyone in NASCAR that I've met, a lot of people don't know what it's really like until they're there, and it's cool. So, but the people that I've met, the mentors that I have, the people who are just there for you, it's like no other. So, so many people I could keep going talking about, but those were a couple, and yeah, so many more.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dylan. I'm going to give him a shout out as well. I've announced a handful of races with Dylan over the years, and he's a
Absolutely.
really cool guy. I love Dylan. He works with Josh Williams over there at Colleague, and he's definitely one of the nice up and coming guys in this industry. And I do agree with you as well. this industry, the racing industry, is so close. It's competitive on the track, but it's a family off the track, and it's just so awesome to be involved in it. I'm going to throw back to DLB. I'm sure he has a couple more questions here in the last couple minutes of the episode.
So, Landon, so when we were at Indy, we had a conversation about things that you want to do outside of graphic designs. Obviously, you're a very creative person, but you tell me stuff like photography and content creation and all these other alleys that you want to tap into. Can you tell me a little bit about that here on the podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest thing for me is I like one one thing that's apparent for me is I like the people. I'm a people person. I enjoy making those connections. So a lot of that happens when I'm at the racetrack. When you're there, when I'm there, the people make it really cool for me more than anything else. So being at the racetrack is how I'm pretty happy just with the people that I know. And as a graphic designer, those people really aren't at the racetrack. They're not always there. They are. I'm not at every race, but they're not valued as a hands-on at the racetrack the same if they're labeled just graphic designer. But for me, a lot of people don't know that, I like the media side of stuff too. I'm interested to get more into that side of things. Photography would be great. Video, content creation, heck, PR, social media, all of that stuff in that creative department. I feel like I could be successful at. I feel like the tools that I have right now, would be a pretty seamless transition. So those are skills that I have, and I try to work on. Just kind of, vision stuff when I'm at the track and what I'm doing right now. But those are the shoes, and those are the other things I want to do at the racetrack, not just design and stuff that's more hands-on. I mean, you Dustin, you follow Kyle around the racetrack. You do the videos for us. That's so cool. You're at the racetrack. You're talking with the driver. You're part of that. You get to make that creative and come up with that content. And I think there's so many other sides in the creative industry that allows you to be creative with, not just design. But there's so much, like even PR, public relations. Like you can be so creative with something like that, you know, um, and you realize that when you start knowing what jobs these people have at the racetrack. But I would say for me, you know, I would be really good at running social media, running media and photo. I think that's something that I need to get more into. I think I have, a decent bit of experience with that, but need to make it a priority to get more into that too. So I think with college and all that stuff, I'm kind of, I'm not studying graphic design in college. I'm doing more business, more content creation, more video, more of that side of stuff, just to show more value to me that I can do more than just one thing. I almost want to. I really do want to do more than just one thing. Um, but I'm a hands-on person. I think being at the racetrack is the place for me. Um, and the people I've met, and I think those people in those positions really like it too. So I know you, Dustin, you're happy to be at the racetrack. I'm happy to be at the racetrack. Finding a way to make that more of a full-time thing, more of a hands-on thing. But I'm never really going to pass up an opportunity. If stuff comes up, I'm usually pretty quick to take something. Um, I'm not going to take anything, but there's a lot that's valuable to me. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Is everyone's like, "Oh, he's a graphic designer. He can't do this. He can't do that." Well, I can. There's so many times too where even just in graphic design, I'm asked by Dan or Chris, "Hey, can you make this?" I'm like, "I've never made that before. Like, you want to do a helmet design?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So my first time through is I do it and everyone likes it. So uh, I think I need to expand the tools a little bit. I think they're there. But I need to promote myself more than just a graphic designer. I think that's big into leading to other opportunities. And a lot of people that I know that, but I'm almost forced to just post the work I'm doing on social media, not the work I'm looking to do. Love graphic design, love every bit about it. But I definitely feel like it's best for me to get more be more involved in other areas of the creative department. I think content and capturing that would be probably the next step I take, and I think I'd be great at that. I enjoy having a camera in my hands, had a phone in my hands, capturing media or content. I think that's something for me too. So I need to get more into that side of stuff.
Absolutely. It sounds like a great plan ahead. And I hope that you stop in at every alley over there for you. So my final question is back at Texas last year, your first race. Qualifying was going on, and you got a mention from the pit reporter. Now, DJ EJ told us a little story about how you and him went over and talked to the pit reporter, and he kind of like nudged you and said, like, hey, he designed this car. Can you walk us through that experience with DJ EJ and how you ended up having your name shouted out on TV for the very first time during qualifying at Texas Motor Speedway last year?
Absolutely. He's a great guy. Wish he was still at the racetrack with us every weekend. Miss having him. Would have been great to have him at Indy this weekend. So if you're watching, miss you, man. But no, at Texas, it was great. I think he kind of nudged me to do stuff that I didn't necessarily think of doing. I'm pretty laid back as far as what I talk about. I don't like to brag about myself. I don't like to say too much. Um, but honestly, the person who ended up really helping me too, and that was Brennan Poole. He was a person who actually ended up introducing me directly to Dave Burns. That was the reporter. Very highly respected guy. It's funny, even at the racetrack now, we'll stop by and say hi. We'll talk a little bit. Like I said, I don't forget that stuff. So um, he said, "Hey, let's try to talk to him." And Brennan saw me. He said, "Hey, Dave, this is Landon. Figured I'd introduce you." Kind of told me about me. Had Brennan brag about me because I'm not going to do it myself. And he's like, "I'm gonna, take my notebook out, do some notes." And he took a lot of notes about me, about Kyle. And yeah, the next day, I think it was 8, 9 a.m. It was pretty early in the morning. Race was the same day. Just getting taps on the shoulder that I'm getting, a shout out on. I couldn't remember if it was practice or qualifying, but it was probably a 30, 40 second segment talking about the team, DGM, Kyle, Drive Smart, and me. And like I said, that's stuff that you don't see all the time, but Brennan helped kind of put the icing on the cake there and actually, introduce me. But DJEJ had the idea for that too. I didn't necessarily think of that. Some people were like, "There's no chance that he's going to talk about me. There's no chance." But I've got that clip that'll never be forgotten. That was a really cool moment just to kind of get a shout out for that. I talked about the contest, talked about Drive Smart, just talked about everything. So that was super cool. Not necessarily sure if everyone knows about that, but that was a cool story. And there's so many other cool stories like that. But just kind of those gestures I value so much. Same thing about, I guess, what Natalie does for me, uh, what Kyle does for me, what these people do for me. I'm so blessed that they do that because it's so valuable. I don't demand it. I don't ask it. But they still set me up to succeed, which is really cool. And they're great people to work with, great people, great teams. DGM Racing, awesome. Love being with all these people at the racetrack. So yeah, it's every weekend there's new stories. I know me and you, Dustin, had a great time at Indy. It's gonna suck that we got a 3 week break, but hopefully we can do it again at a future race. I know we will. And so yeah, like I said, it's always looking for the next step, always looking what that is. But um, yeah, so many cool stories just being surrounded in this industry for sure.
Absolutely. I'm going to shoot you back on Robert Hill here for any final questions on his end before we wrap this thing up.
I have two final questions. The first is, if you could give an up and coming designer one piece of advice, what would it be?
Heck of a question. That's a great one. I think target your well. First of all, have a platform. If you don't have a platform, if you don't have any sort of social platform, you can't expect to get any opportunity. So that's the first thing. But when you make your content, you don't have any choice but to come up with mock-ups, come up with concept designs. But whatever artwork or whatever opportunity, it doesn't even have to be graphic design, whatever opportunity in the creative department you're looking for, target yourself to that. Don't target yourself to this random thing here, that random thing there. If you want to get in NASCAR as a graphic designer designing paint schemes, just put a bunch of concept designs of paint schemes. If you want to do t-shirt or merch designs, do the same thing there. Make it as specific as possible for the opportunity that you want, and then let it grow. And a lot of people don't really know, or know exactly how to get started. And it's overwhelming. I wouldn't have known the idea too. And it people might be like, hey, you didn't go through that process. You didn't spend all that work for nothing or whatever. But being around it now, seeing how these opportunities work, that's exactly how it is. You got to put it towards a target audience, have a consistent schedule as far as putting content out, um, and make it appealing to the people you want to appeal. You want to make interested in you, and give them a reason why they should trust you, why they should use you. And if you're consistent, you do it consistently, and you do it to a quality you feel is your best. There's no chance that as time goes on, you will get more eyes, even if they're just followers, but you will get an opportunity. I see it time and time again. People get opportunities like that. They'll pitch concept designs and have sponsors reach out. They'll see it online. They'll be like, "Hey, let's do it. We're gonna make this work. We'll put our money in, and we're gonna have this car on track." So I'd say that's the biggest thing. Have a target audience, be consistent, and put the content out there that you think is of the level you want it to reflect as you.
I definitely like that. And my final question is one that I ask everybody, and you can gear this however you want here, but what's your goal for the next year, and what's your goal for 5 years from now?
5 years will be interesting. Next year, I think for me, the next immediate step would love to have a Cup Series design racing on Sunday. I'm biased because I have stuff in Xfinity Series, and I really do think the racing is so good in the Xfinity Series right now that I almost don't really care. But I think it helps to have a paint scheme in the Cup Series, so always looking for that. I would say, for me, always meet new people. But a year from now, I want to be in a spot where if there's an opportunity, a really big opportunity, I could feel like I could evaluate something, not necessarily take it, but be able to feel like I've improved. I'm in a spot where I could have a path to something pretty big. Um, Not sure what that is. Like I said, it's literally one day at a time. So this is such a tough question to answer for me specifically because everything moves so quickly. Um, but 5 years from now, I mean, I think for me, to have, and that will probably come before 5 years, but would love to have a role full time with a race team. I think that's better for me than being freelance. Um, so I think that's the big one. Obviously, higher up, it would love to be at a very respected race team as a creative director. Not every team has that role, so a team that does would be a goal for me. And for me, honestly, I look at it like maybe I could get something before that too. You never know. I always try to push myself to see what I can do. Um, but I'd say throughout all this, I take it. I try to kind of keep it calm and fluent. I don't overload myself. I don't overload people I'm looking for. There's so many great opportunities, like what I have here with Joe Gibbs Racing, what I have here with Drive Smart, what I have here with so many great people is big, and I could easily probably find a way to come up with something pretty cool. But just by being in the loop with these people, talking to them consistently, having artwork out there, I have no doubt in my mind that there will be something that I could be confident to take here in the next year or so. So I don't know if that's 5 years. That might be 2 years from now, 3 years, maybe 10. Hopefully not. But it's so much so just one day at a time. I hate to say it, but that's kind of what I've lived my life off of the past uh, 10 months. I wasn't like that beforehand. I didn't think like that, but I have no choice but to think like that now. I just kind of got to take the next day as it comes, see what people want, fulfill their requests, and make it look as good as I can.
Absolutely love it, Landon. Where can people find you? How can they get a hold of you?
Social media, X, Landon Mills on that. Landon Mills Creative on Instagram. Um, that's the big stuff. Just follow me there. I'll keep you in the loop. And I appreciate everyone that has reached out to me, has been supportive. There's been a huge uproar of just people being really supportive for me. That interview was great that I had recently. Super thankful for all the great comments on there. Um, but yeah, I'm so blessed to do this. Super cool. And got no doubt in my mind we'll continue making really cool stuff. And there's still a lot left of this Xfinity Series season. So we're hoping to get to victory lane with Kyle. Hoping to get to victory lane with whatever's on track. So pulling for everyone here after this 3 weeks, but I'm certainly still busy working on stuff even for next year, we got stuff coming up. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I told Dustin, I'm like, this is the perfect environment to talk about stuff, and got such a big story to tell. I'm so willing to tell people about it that are interested. And there's so many great stories like this. Dustin and I talk. People don't know because they don't look for it, but there is so much around you that you can use for content, and for somebody in content, I kind of want to look for that. So no, pleasure having me on. We'll stay in the loop, but it was really good to be on here, and so thank you guys, really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you very
Absolutely.
much, Landon Milz, for coming on here for episode number 14. What an interview. So, let's say we give away a little bit of merch here that Landon has designed. If we can give away
Let's
one of
do
them
it.
cool t-shirts. So, Landon actually designed this t-shirt very early 2024. This dropped back in January. So it's a beautiful design. Exclusive Drive Smart merch with that one. So if you want to win this t-shirt, all you got to do is put something in the chat right now, and we'll randomly select somebody to win that very t-shirt. So that was actually the first bit of merch that Landon designed, I do believe. And such a cool t-shirt. I got one myself. I got given one by the Drive Smart guys back in January when I headed down to the DGM race shop. But let's go ahead and roll it here. And winning the t-shirt is going to be, let's see, Alan Hall is going to win the Drive Smart t-shirt. So
There
Alan,
we
what you
go.
got to do is you got to go and click on, well, you got to go over to Twitter, X. Do you have that social media platform? X is what the kids call it nowadays. Head over at X and go find Go Drive Smart on X. Shoot them a tweet, shoot them a DM, and they'll get your shipping address and t-shirt size, and they'll get you one mailed out here shortly. So congratulations, Alan Hall, for winning one of the Drive Smart t-shirts. Now, if you didn't win, tune in next week, and you'll have an opportunity to win. Definitely cool seeing some new guys win some of this merch out here. I always appreciate everyone who's tuning in to the Drive Smart Pit Crew podcast. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up episode number 14. And we'll be back next week for episode number 15.